All right, hello, and welcome back to another episode of Atlanta Sports Guys here on a Friday afternoon. 929-247. He's addicted to working at places with numbers in their name. Garrett Chapman. Garrett, good afternoon, sir. How are you?
Oh, I'm good, man. I mean, the numbers come with the radio station. It's just sort of it kind of comes with the territory.
Probably true. Can't really get around that one.
Not really.
No. The game 929. Well, I guess, I don't know. What do people say more? The game 929 or the 929 the game? I guess
the game.
Yeah.
92.9 people, because you say 92.9 in reference to Atlanta sports, and generally speaking, people know what you're talking about.
But what's weird is like in New York, they do the fan, right? They do the WFAN, then the numbers. And it doesn't sound weird because like we're Francesa.
Yeah, see, I just know them as WFAN. I don't even know what they're...
See, isn't that weird though?
Yeah, I mean, that's how,
you don't know the numbers.
Some stations are. I mean, we're WZGC.
Never would have guessed that. Is that
680 is CNN.
Hmm.
So WCNN really, but WSB is that way though. But like immediately I say WSB. That's exactly. It's not Channel 2. It's not 95.5 or 750. It's just WSB.
Yeah, WSB, Fox 5, and then you're thinking CBS 46.
A&F.
Yeah, none of them are.
Well, they're at Atlanta News First now.
Wait, what?
They rebranded. Yeah,
who?
Back like GCL.
What are we talking about right now? Who rebranded?
WGCL is CBS 46. They rebranded to Atlanta News First.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I didn't sign off on that. They're CBS 46 until I left the city and I didn't sign off as ex-czar of Atlanta. No, CBS 46.
This is an XIA WAGA and SB town.
Yeah, there you go. Which one's Miles on? Is he on Fox or is he NBC?
I think he's XIA. 11
so is that NBC, the NBC
11
affiliate?
NBC.
Okay. 11 Alive.
Right.
There you go. Well, that's your Atlanta Minute on...
Fox. I don't know. I should know that offhand, but
it was just on last week. I don't know. I watched his stuff and I don't actually know. Apologies, Miles, when you're listening.
Sorry,
to this,
buddy.
But listen to Miles Garrett. You could just.
He's cool. He's up in Indianapolis right now.
Yeah,
he's doing pretty well. I've been following his coverage. He's got some good stuff.
Yeah, this it's been pretty good. Byron Young running a crazy 40. It's nice. Jalen Hyatt hopefully runs the fastest this week. Everything coming up Tennessee at the moment. Which is always good.
You saw those Georgia times, man.
Georgia's not really trying to be in the spotlight right now.
Nolan just ran a 4.39.
Mm-hmm.
That's a defensive lineman. Well, technically he's an edge guy, but 4.39.
Yeah.
Keely Ringo just ran a 4.36, I think. Fast. There's another guy who's not participating in the physical nature of the of the combine. He's there for interviews, but we won't get into that one.
Man. We're going to get into some NFL stuff, though. Not the combine itself, because I don't really know. Like, I'm not an expert. Like, when people are like, oh, look at that. And I'm like, okay, so what does that mean? Why does it make it better? And I don't really have a firm grasp on stuff like that. I'm always curious with draft evaluators how they react to certain things and measurables and stuff like that, because I don't really have a concept for that. But the Falcons have a need for a number 2 wideout. Our Atlanta Sports Guys chat, we've talked about who it's going to be. Max Markovich has thrown out Keenan Allen. It seems like he's a priority now in LA, and he's not leaving. I think they said they wanted him to be somebody. I forgot who it was. Tom Telesco, the GM in LA, compared him to, and I forgot who it was. Not Mike Evans, but it was somebody like that. Just a long-term guy with one team.
Yeah. And
just kind of the bridge guy, but I forgot who he actually compared him to. But either way,
he's talented enough to be that guy. He's still good. I'd like to see him in Atlanta. We'd have to trade assets for him, and I don't really want to do that.
No. Who should it be, though, this offseason? And do you think it should be filled in the draft? Should they draft someone high and spend a lot of their free agency resources to a receiver? How would you approach it, Garrett?
I mean, if you go for a big ticket item, you can do that. Go get a veteran. I think this team needs a veteran pass catcher. I just in general, I think you go bring back Olamide Zaccheaus, OZ. He's a fine prospect, a fine player. He was the most established wide receiver in that room last year, which is kind of weird to think about it that way. But I think they do a little bit of both. It would be surprising to me if they don't draft one at all, just because this is such a deep crop of wide receivers in the draft this year. But there are also some there are no like really flashy names unless you consider Odell Beckham Jr. to be flashy at this point in his career, which I don't. But there's no big fish out there at wide receiver. There were a lot of very good wide receivers, which I think plays into what the Falcons want. Because when you look at what they have right now, I mean, they just spent a top overall pick on Drake London last year. You have Kyle Pitts, who's coming back from injury, who you spent the 4th overall pick on the year before that. I mean, go get like an Allen Lazard or maybe a Mecole Hardman or Darius Slayton, Bobby Trees, Robert Woods. You know, like there are guys out there. I think you can round out a receiver room and give your team some veteran experience, and I think that'd be valuable for this team, especially since very young on offense, especially the skill players. You know. So I'd like to see them go that direction. Will they go that direction? I have no idea. Terry Fontenot has proven time and again that he's going to take the quote unquote best player available, whatever that means. And if that means it's a wide receiver, then I guess we're going to be bringing in a wide receiver because there are a lot of great wide receivers in this draft class. So I think it's going to be a combination of the two. Long story short, I'd like to see them bring in a veteran and then go get a guy maybe in the 2nd or 3rd round. Maybe your boy Jalen Hyatt.
I don't know if he fits. I wouldn't want him here.
I don't think he fits all that well,
but
he's in that range, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
That 2nd, 3rd round, that kind of.
Cedric Tillman makes a lot more sense for
guys.
this group.
Rasheed Rice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there are guys that'll fall into the 3rd round that I think are really talented. Does that mean that they need to go get Jordan Addison or Quentin Johnston or Jackson Smith and Jigba or something? Not necessarily. I don't think they need to do that. But because I really want to see them address the defense through the draft, especially at the top of the draft. But there are good players. Josh Downs, Keyshawn Butte. I mean, this is a deep class at wide receiver, especially in the first 3 rounds. So I'd like to see them get one of those guys.
Didn't Butte go back to LSU?
He was going to go back to LSU back in December. He announced it, and then after January, he redeclared for the draft.
Oh, is he back in? I didn't realize
He's back in the draft. Or he should be. Yeah, because I don't know. There was some drama or something that happened.
Yeah, I thought he went back.
He flip-flopped. I one way or the other. I think he declared for the draft officially in January.
My number one, I think you have to do both. I don't think people understand just how limited this receiving core was and how much was on Drake London's plate, especially after Kyle Pitts went out, where if you want to really see what you have in Desmond Ridder, you cannot go into this year not significantly upgrading the wide receivers. Like, I think the running back situation is about to be the same. I think you go into it, Tyler Algier, you bring back CP, who is basically like a de facto GM at this point. He's a great Twitter follower.
He's great, man.
I think he's upset. A good block.
He was. Yeah. Did you see his tweet? He sent something out. He's like, he was upset that he didn't get the invite to Indianapolis.
Like, CP's great.
He's awesome.
And I think he's back. So I think you bring both those guys back, and then you can always just draft a running back super late and just add more bodies to the room.
Sure.
I don't think they're going to go beat John today. That being said, I do think the dearth of talent at wideout is just so detrimental to figuring out what you have. It's like the Jalen Hurts thing. It's like you go out and trade for AJ Brown, or you go out and you draft Devontae Smith in the 1st round. You still allocate a lot of your resources to beefing up as many playmakers around your young quarterback as humanly possible, because like it makes their jobs a lot easier, especially with these quarterbacks who, like, I like Ridder. I just don't think he's going to be a top 5, top 6 guy in this league. I don't think that he has that path, but you can still win a lot of games with him. But I think a lot of it's going to come down to the guys around Desmond Ridder, and it's just not good enough. And this is such a huge year where I forgot who I was listening to talk about this, but it was Robert Mays and Josh Kendall on the NFL podcast, the Athletic NFL podcast. But I think what they said was, and Blank was on somebody else's show, because Blank's pretty open. Arthur Blank, he talks to the media and will open up about stuff. But I think the sentiment was like, Arthur has one more year basically of like, if we go 7-10 next year, it's like understandable. But then after that, you got to be contending, like, or work. Like, basically this is the last gap year before you have to show like this is working and we're a playoff team, and it's like a playoff or bust after this year. With all that being said, I think to see what you have in Desmond going into this offseason, you have to beef it up. You just cannot limit this guy who needs a lot of help around him, which is not a problem because he's super smart. He's going to put the ball where he needs to. I don't think he's going to be a turnover guy, but it has to be more. And I think I look at snaps, and Allen Lazard was 3rd in snaps among all available wide receivers right now. Lazard's big, good red zone guy. He's probably priority 1 for me. And then I'm still drafting someone in the slot. Like the Calvin Ridley stuff, it just sucks because if he's still on this roster, like I don't think we need to address something like that.
No.
But because he's out, I think that's just an underrated part of why they think they have to still keep investing in receiver, is just because of what happened there. And then you feel good. If you go Tillman or whoever in the 2nd or 3rd round, Drake London, you get a healthy Pitts back, and you sign a veteran like Allen Lazard, I think then you're like, oh, this is enough. You can feel comfortable, like this is enough to see what we have in Desmond Ridder. Can he be good enough with this amount of talent at wideout and tight end to really get us to 10, 11 wins and just win a lot of regular season games and do play the way we want to play and actually score enough to take that next step in the NFC? I think that's what it is. But you're just you're chopping the kid's legs, you're chopping him at the knees or whatever. Mm-hmm. If you don't, I think at least add one high ticket receiver and still draft another receiver in the 2nd or 3rd round. I think it has to be. And I also I value so much of the snap stuff. It's like how reliable and durable are they at this point in their career with these free agent wide receivers? And it seems like Allen Lazard you can at least count on for a lot of snaps. And that's what we want with this group, is you want to bring in somebody who is reliable, red zone guy, big body that Arthur Smith likes and seems like a good fit. So my dream scenario is Allen Lazard, and then insert slot guy here that you could sell me on in the 2nd or 3rd round. Is that fair?
I like that. I think that's fantastic. I think that's a blueprint. That's kind of around what I was saying too. I'm on the same page with that. Desmond Ridder, I'm confident that Desmond Ridder is going to be the starting quarterback for the Atlanta Falcons in 2023. Mm-hmm. Am I going to come out here and just like proclaim it's going to happen and there's no other realm of possibility in which we have another name who's starting games for the Atlanta Falcons? No, I'm not going to say that, because I said the same thing about Deshaun Watson and we saw what happened there. But look, I think you'd hit the nail on the head. At the end of the day, like, this team needs experience. They need depth. They didn't have that last year, especially when Desmond Ridder was playing. Kyle Pitts coming back, I think, is going to be a big boon for this offense. Which is why I don't think they need to go for like the big fish if like that Keenan Allen that was floated initially in this conversation. So I think with your blueprint, the one that you just laid out, I think that's perfectly adequate. Allen Lazard, he's fine. Like, he's a fine player, but the thing he doesn't need to come in and be the number 1. Right. I just need him to come in and be a solid number 2, a secondary option, or even a 3rd option. And then we can pull in some other wide receiver who you think that, I mean, if you go get Allen Lazard, I'm not taking a wide receiver in the top 3 rounds. I don't think I'm going to do it in that way. But maybe go find like a project guy, some guy later on in the draft, somebody who has high upside. I'll do that and let him develop as the 4th or 5th option on this roster. Because then I'm also going to go bring back Lamar Jackson, and all of a sudden that's a wide receiver room right there. Like, you're set, and then figure out what's going on in the offensive line. I think they can do that in free agency. And then there you go. That's your offense. That's a strong offense. And look, I don't need them to come out and be the Kansas City Chiefs or the Philadelphia Eagles. I need them to be the Minnesota Vikings, just be good enough. Be good enough to win football games. They were good enough to be in football games last year. I think they're good enough to win football games next year.
That's fair. Marcus Mariota was released this week.
Least surprising news of the last 12 months.
So good luck to him in San Francisco as QB2 behind Trey Lance and Brock Purdy as he gets healthy. We'll see where he ends up. Now I'm curious, though, where do you think they go for veteran quarterback? Because they're not just going into next year with Desmond Ridder and then drafting another guy. That's too young. And they're not going with Logan Woodside. He's not going to be the backup going into next year. Where do you think they go?
I think they're going to go big fish hunting at quarterback. It would not surprise me if they did that. I don't want to say I think that they do that. I'm going to say that I wouldn't be surprised if they did that.
They did it last year.
They did last year, and it would not surprise me at all if they did it again this year. So look, the Atlanta Falcons have a need at quarterback, so they're going to go out and either draft or sign or trade for a quarterback. That much is a guarantee. You're not going to go into the season with just one guy on the roster, much less whoever that random backup is that they signed, who's effectively a glorified practice squad player. No offense to him, but
bring back Ben Kurt.
Kirk Binkert, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess he's not in Tampa
No,
Bay.
I'm saying just bring him back like that.
Yeah, bring him
Good
back. I
vibe
love
guy.
Kirk Binkert, man.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I would not surprise me if they go and try at least for a Lamar Jackson or something like that. But what I'm assuming is he's going to be too expensive. They're not going to want to pay for him and then subsequently pay this ludicrous contract that he's going to be owed. And if that's the route they go, great. You get Lamar Jackson, fantastic. This team is extremely good. I won't have any qualms with that necessarily. On the other hand, if Desmond Ridder is going to be your guy, I don't think it's going to be a really flashy offseason. Go get like an AJ McCarron type. I don't need anybody really exciting to back him up. I want some guy with experience, somebody who can be kind of a third coach, you know? So it's like if your QB coach, your offensive coordinator, and then you have your backup quarterback. And I want to see that. Like that's really in the Falcons case, they'd have 4 because you have head coach as well. Because Arthur Smith is absolutely involved in that. But I want a veteran guy, a guy who's an experienced backup. I don't need somebody who can come off the bench and be a starter if need be. I'm not really looking for that. I want somebody who's an experienced backup, a guy who just chills on the bench, you know, like what is it? Clipboard Jesus, you know, like a guy like that.
You know who probably my favorite. I think Jacoby Brissett makes a lot of sense.
I think it's a fine option.
I think they do go into Lamar Jackson sweepstakes. I don't think Baker makes a lot of sense for them. He doesn't really strike me as the guy. Andy Dalton, I don't think makes a lot of sense. I don't know. There's just not a lot. There's not a lot out there that is just like interesting. Like Sam Darnold, hard pass.
Just a veteran, you know, just some guy who's been around the league who knows offenses and can be some guy who helps him with his preparation on a day-to-day basis.
Jimmy Garoppolo is maybe the sneaky best option here.
Jimmy G?
Yeah.
He's gonna cost like $25 million.
I don't think so. You think Jimmy G is gonna go for that?
Yes, he's gonna want that.
I don't know. I
think Jimmy G is a perfect. I think Jimmy G would be ideal in a place like Miami. I don't think he'd go anywhere other than Miami. His old offensive coordinator is the head coach, and they have a quarterback down there who's, well, I can't stay healthy. So I think he'll be down there, but
I think they have to decide soon. We'll know if Jimmy G is like Miami bound or somebody like that, because I think they still have like 2 or 3 months to pick up to his 5th-year option. And if they don't, then I think that's signaling they're bringing in somebody else, or they're gonna.
I'd be surprised if they don't bring somebody else. I'd be surprised.
Do you think they'll actually do it? By the way, the Falcons go after Lamar Jackson, because
they're absolutely going after Lamar Jackson.
So you think that's real? You don't think that's even like a smoke thing? You think they're going to really go for it?
They're absolutely dipping their toe and seeing what it's going to cost, and they're picking up the phone and doing their due diligence. I'd expect
he's an unrestricted
to do that.
Free agent. Like, he can just sign with the Falcons.
Lamar?
Yes, because if the Ravens don't tag him,
no, they're going to tag him. They're going to tag him. That's how it's going to happen. They're going to franchise. They're going to try and reach an agreement. They're going to come up to the deadline, and they're going to drop a tag on him. And then he's going to say he's not going to play, and then he'll hold out, and then they'll tag him again next year, and then the next year, and then the next year. There's no way, no how that they let Lamar Jackson walk away for nothing. It's not happening. Like, it's just, it's no. That's why I initially had the thought at first, you know, because I didn't think it was realistic. And then they just continue to not sign him to a contract. And the longer they go with that, I just don't know if Lamar wants to be there anymore. But I don't know why you want to leave. He is a dominant defense and a great, one of the best head coaches in the NFL. Why would he want to leave that? So I don't know.
Todd Monken's coming in too.
Todd Monken's a great offensive mind. I think Todd Monken's going to be a major upgrade over Greg Roman at offensive coordinator. I don't know. I think Lamar Jackson would be a lot of fun in Atlanta. I don't think it's necessarily the best decision. It would sell a lot of jerseys, and a lot of people would be very interested in Falcons football. And they'll win a lot of games too. They'll be a playoff team with Lamar Jackson, assuming he's healthy. Like, because he's played 16 games in the last 2 years. That kind of worries me a lot, especially considering the type of player that he is. He's a player who's going to run. He's going to get hit. He has a propensity of getting hurt, and I don't really want to pay a guy $50 million if he's only going to play half the season. That doesn't really give me a lot of confidence.
Would you rather trade for Lamar or Justin Fields?
Lamar, I'd say probably, just because. I mean, Fields is going to cost more. He just will. He's a younger player. Uh, I see both as potential options. I mean, both guys are talented players. I think Fields probably has a longer shelf life, just by virtue of him being significantly younger. What is he, like 24 years old? Uh, I think both would be very good in Arthur Smith's offense. I don't like their throwing acumen. I think Justin Fields, especially, he leaves a lot to be desired in the accuracy department. But he's got a cannon. I mean, he showed in college that he can put the ball in the money if he needs to. It's just the NFL, the windows are a lot tighter. And he struggled at times. And so it's why I want to see what Desmond Ridder can do, because Desmond Ritter's affordable. Desmond Ritter's already here on the roster. He knows the offense. And I think that this team has so many needs elsewhere. And I want to go see what this team could look like if you give them a viable defense and upgrade on that side. If you upgrade depth, get better in the trenches, put some guys on the defensive line, get some killer cornerbacks on the outside, I think this team could benefit a lot more from a guy like that rather than a Justin Fields or Lamar Jackson in the long term, not in the short term. In the short term, you get a Lamar Jackson in here, this team's going to the playoffs next year.
That's fair. Speaking of the Falcaholic, a lot of free agents. They did their free agent tally and tracker. Keith Smith, Lamar Zaccheaus, Kadero Hodge, Demir Bird, McCole Pruitt, Andrew Ferkser, Caleb McGarry, Fetty, Wilkinson, like a lot of names on here. Rashawn Evans, Lorenzo Carter, Isaiah Oliver. Of that list, who are you most wanting to see the Falcons use their plethora of cap space to bring back? Who are you prioritizing among the free agents?
How many can I give you?
Give me 3. And one of them has to be McCole Pruitt, who I think is tied into for me until
the unicorn, the Falcons. Unicorn,
I love McCole Pruitt. I think he has to be part of this group.
No, I think he's great. Well, see, this is one of those things that I said this on my program on 92.9. $70 million is fool's gold. It's fool's gold. It's because what we have right now is a team that we don't have any. We have a vacant roster. That's why you have so much cap space. And you just go through and you sign a guy like, I don't know, Lindstrom or something, a guy who's going to be on this roster long term. Sign him to an extension. That eats into some of your contract. I mean, it eats into your cap space. I mean, and then you go down this list. I'm going to give you a couple just to answer your question. Like Elijah Wilkinson's a guy who I want to see potentially come back. He was good on the offensive line when he was healthy. I want to see what he can do with a full season. Abdullah Anderson was a strong player. Rashawn Evans. He was a guy in the middle of the field who I think he was a tackle machine when he was out there, and this team needs depth at linebacker. And you bring in some veteran experience while Troy Anderson, your guy, continues to develop.
Not Troy Morgan, as some people do.
No, not Troy Morgan. Troy Anderson, the stud, the athletic freak. I mean, another one is Isaiah Oliver. I'm cheating. I'm going to add another one. I think Isaiah Oliver could be very good, especially if, I think he showed something last year. He showed that, he could be a competent player. But this is what I'm saying. Like, you sign all these guys, what are you going to do? Sign them to another 1-year deal? Maybe. But then all of a sudden you're right back into the situation again next year. But that's one thing that Terry Fontenot has done very, very effectively is go bargain hunting and get some guys who can fill out your roster, not necessarily be major financial implications, but guys who can add wins to this team. And I think he very effectively did that. So if there's anything that I trust Terry Fontenot to do is go out and find pro personnel. He's shown a propensity to do that. He's been very effective at that over his tenure as the Falcons general manager. The jury's still out on some of those draft picks, but he has shown that he is worth he's worth his weight in gold when it comes to finding pro personnel, because he's struck gold a bunch of times. Like, these guys have been. But the thing is, but it's also like relative too, because we're not expecting these guys to come in and be like Michael Turner or anything. Like, he's not doing that. But but he did sign Cordero Patterson, and Cordero Patterson came in and he was pretty damn good himself. But these are guys who are coming in and they want to, absorb plays, take snaps, and get tackles and do the little things and give like the rookies a chance to develop. And I think for the most part, I think he's done a pretty good job with finding guys like that, especially when money is super tight. So I trust him.
McCole Pruitt's in there for me. Like I said, I'm okay losing Zaccheaus. he hasn't really moved the needle. You can
I
find
already
one of
forgot
these.
about Alameda Zacchaeus. Yeah, he's another guy I want back.
I don't know. Of that group, I actually would rather have Demir Bird. I think
wouldn't
there's
mind
more
bringing
there
back
with Demir Bird.
I wouldn't mind that.
He's more of a different kind of guy that I am okay
Yeah.
with. And
Ozzy
then
has the
Isaiah
longest
Oliver is
catch
a
in
lock for
Falcons
me.
history, though.
I think Isaiah Oliver has to be back. Like, there's just no depth. And even if you go corner high, I think he has to be a priority. You have to
You
figure
need depth
something
at
out.
that position anyway. Why not? Why would you not bring that guy back?
Carter,
You don't want Mike Ford?
even Rashaan Evans. It's whatever. I'm just like, some of these guys have to play. Like, I think Troy Anderson needs to start. I don't know. I want more bodies, and I would rather them continue to draft linebackers and kind of add more versatility and add more add more athleticism to that room. And I'm like, Evans is fine, but I don't know.
He's pretty athletic. They have a pretty
old.
athletic room.
I don't know.
Old.
Yeah, Rashaan Evans is old. He's banged up. What is Rashaan Evans? 30? Let's see.
He's 27, my man.
Oh, it's an old 27.
Damn, dude. I was like, you're killing me. I'm 27. Get out of here with
I'm
that,
31.
man. Come on. That's
31.
what I thought when you said that. It was because I think he came through the year after I did. He was the year behind me in high school.
Mm-hmm.
He was
hold
really
on.
talented.
He has 4. Yeah. I mean, this will be year 6 for him. It's a long time for a linebacker.
Drafted in 2018, first round pick.
Yeah.
He dealt with a lot of injuries.
Yeah, that's the other thing too. An old 29. What is he? 27?
29. He's a good player. I mean, I think he is. He's very similar to Troy Anderson in that like sort of like hyper athletic build. But I think Troy Anderson has a significantly higher ceiling.
He tackles it in a hilarious way too. Troy Anderson, it's like a full on wrap up guy. The legs, like people just stop. He's just like I don't even know who he reminds me of as a linebacker, but he just like the full on wrap, and you just stop in your tracks. It's like getting hit by a bulldozer. The dude is the dude's a menace.
And Troy Anderson will be better with that as he continues to develop. I mean, he's one of those guys who he only has 2 full seasons as a full-time linebacker.
Mm-hmm.
One of them was his rookie year of the NFL, which is insane. Yeah. He's an athletic freak.
Yeah. Well, hopefully
it translates.
Yes, that would be the hope, because he was a high pick. There was other guys available.
He's the Matt Ryan pick. Yeah. So he'll always be held to that standard.
There you go. Speaking of Matt Ryan, he was at the Hawks game.
I saw that
this week. The Hawks lose their first game with Quin Snyder. They play tonight. As folks are hearing this, we'll see whether or not they win.
Game starting at 7:00.
Yes,
92.9 the game.
There you go. Good plug.
I'll be there.
What looked different to you about the Quin Snyder era thus far? Anything look different in the Wiz loss?
Really, I wouldn't say different necessarily. One thing that I kind of liked is they sort of trusted that Joe Prunty was going to come in and do his thing. And like Quin Snyder can only do so much. I mean, like he's only been with the team for at the time, I guess like 2 days. Like he'd been officially announced. He had 1 formal practice and then a shoot around the day of the game. And I mean, there's only so much you can actually do in that period of time. But I mean, it doesn't help that Bradley Beal just went nuclear on this team. But then again, Trey looked good. I mean, I enjoyed what I saw from Trey in the first 3 quarters of the game. The fourth quarter was forgettable, not just from him, but from the whole team. They kind of went ISO ball, which is what just drives a nail into my head every time I watch this team do that. They just always fall into that bad habit, which is, in my opinion, a habit of bad teams. But I think it's something that Quin Snyder can snap out of him. I think that if they get that buy-in, then I think this could be a good basketball team under Quin Snyder. I don't know if we're actually going to see that over the next 20 games or so. I think it's a little unrealistic to expect to coach with not his staff, not his guys coming in and working some insane like voodoo magic and putting this team into the playoffs. I mean, can I be optimistic about it? Sure. I think Quin Snyder is a significantly better coach than Nate McMillan. I mean, he was by and large the best coach on the market. I mean, without a doubt. I mean, you could go through. He was one of the best coaches in the NBA for the last 5 years, and I'd say like top 10 at least, and best coach that I think that the Hawks could really reasonably expect to go get. But as far as like the game against Washington, there's nothing really that was different. Joe Prunty was the guy who drew up all the plays. Quin Snyder, I guess, like coached from the sideline or whatever. But I saw a couple more traps on defense, which I liked. I saw some. The team looked like they were playing aggressively. They looked like they were moving the ball a little bit better on offense, but then again, like I said, fourth quarter just sort of stalled. I don't know. Based off of the reports that I've been seeing and the people who I know who've been at these practices, I mean, there seems to be more buy-in from the players, and Quin seems to be a lot more hands-on than Nate was, which I think is a good thing. And I think that we need to shift our focus not from these next 20 games and really see what the long-term effects is. Like, who's going to still be on this roster come tip-off in October? You know, like, is DeAndre Hunter, is he going to be on this team? John Collins is going to be on this team. How does DeJounte Murray and Trae Young, what is he doing with those guys? The little themes like that, that's what I think is really going to be the interesting thing to watch over these next 20 games.
Yeah, I think the thing with Quin and like when reading through the tea leaves, like Kyle Korver, obviously, assistant GM, Landry, GM, and then Quin Snyder, who values shooting pick and roll offense. And he just dominated with Gobert and Donovan Mitchell in that way and surrounded them with shooters. And they won a bunch of games. They were the favorites in the West. They got close, making the NBA finals. Like the bubble run was strong for them. Like they were a really good team for several years out West. Like Quin has done a really good job.
Yeah.
The elephant in the room is that they don't have enough shooting. And part of it is they play lineups, but it's like Saddiq Bey, you can make the case, should be starting at the 4. And I wondered if it's like, is Quin his first big move? John's got to go to the bench and Saddiq's got to start because
we saw that in the fourth quarter down the stretch. And like that was probably the biggest decision of the game for Quin Snyder. Because Saddiq Bey, I think, like you said, like he is the biggest benefactor, I'd say, like outside of the obvious, like Trae Young and whatever. But Saddiq Bey, I think, he fits this offense perfectly. And whether or not, I don't think he's an ideal switch for John Collins necessarily. I think he's an ideal switch for just as a wing in general. So whether it's Bogey or it's DeAndre Hunter or it's DeJounte Murray or somebody if they need shooting down the stretch, I think he's somebody who you could come in and put him on the wing and really give some opportunities for Trae. That's what I saw. Because with Saddiq Bey on the outside, on the perimeter, Trae was able to get into the interior of the defense and really cause some havoc. Because people would crash down and then you have guys open for wide open layups like that Clint Capella dunk that he had earlier in the game. Saddiq Bey causes those things. And him on the outside, having those 3-point threats on the outside, I think really causes those things. And John Collins, I love the guy. He was a high-end shooter, a high-volume shooter, a very successful shooter until he got that finger injury. And he just hasn't been the same guy since that injury. He's like a 25% three-point shooter since the injury.
He still wears the thing on his finger. Yeah,
I met him at the Hawks meet and greet like maybe a week ago, and he still had that thing. It's still swollen up. Like, it doesn't look good. And that was really his biggest value as a player. You know, it's that freakish, like, bouncy.
If he was a little bit bigger, it doesn't matter, right? If he could play the 5, if he was bigger and could defend 5.
He's too small to play the 5.
That's what I'm saying. Like, he can't do it. So it just makes it hard. Because, like, if he doesn't have the shot, then you're like, well, maybe we can move him to the 5, and then it's not as big of a deal. But it's like he's not big enough. He can't handle the 5. So you shouldn't get DMP CDs, but like Collins can't play. But I think when you're doing like the winners and losers too, I think one of the first things we'll be looking at is, does Trae do more stuff off the ball with Quin? Does he buy in more on that front? Is there more?
You're talking the next 20 games?
Yeah. Like that's something I want to see. Like what is Quin able to draw up to be like, hey, you've got to do some more stuff when DeJounte has the ball late. Like it cannot just be a your turn, my turn type deal. But the other thing too, Jalen Johnson's probably getting squeezed here because I think there's just no path, I think, for him to be on the court come time. I also think another sneaky benefactor is Onyeka and Kongwu. I think Onyeka, just him being the perfect kind of pick and roll pick, like he's just the size, his defensive versatility. I could see Quin maximizing Onyeka in a way that Nate did not and using him more as a modern 5. So I'm interested to see what Onyeka looks like because I think there's still, I can't quit Onyeka, and I think there's another little, he'll always be kind of blocked because Trae and Capella have just this sixth sense with one another of where the other is at any given moment. But eventually the plan has to be Onyeka has to start and Capella has to be the one playing 20 to 18 minutes a night and it has to be majority.
I mean, when was the
Onyeka,
last time you saw a top 10 pick not have an opportunity to start in his rookie contract?
I don't know. I'm sure there are a lot because the guys who flame out and stuff who never
I
even
mean, maybe there's one or two, but it's still it's an anomaly.
Yeah.
It's certainly
especially
not
a good player. I think it's a better way. It's like
he's a good player. Like I like this isn't like just some bad basketball player
Right.
who just doesn't.
It's not like
fit
James
or
Wiseman,
whatever.
where it's like he's not playable and he just
Yeah, like it's like and Onyeka Okongwu is a very very good basketball player.
Mhm.
It's just, I mean, he played 13 minutes against the Wizards.
Yeah.
Come on. I want to see some more. And I think we'll see a little bit more tonight. I think it's going to be an incremental thing.
Mhm.
I mean, every game at this point is effectively a playoff game. You got to win every game if you want to have any chance of jumping up into that 6th seed, which I think is not outside of the realm of possibility. I mean, the schedule is very difficult, but at the same time, you're playing the teams largely that are ahead of you or competing with you directly.
Mhm.
And if you beat those teams, that's a big deal. So, like, they have 2 games coming up against the Miami Heat. Like, you win one or both, that's a
Well, they're
big deal.
reeling. Yeah.
Whoa, it's crazy. You actually control your destiny when it comes to that state. So, look, this team can theoretically make it up to the 6th seed. I'm not going to hold my breath on it, but I think this is a perfectly viable team. I want to see what they do under Quin Snyder tonight, especially. I think they've had the extra day off. It's an extra practice day, an extra day for them to really see what they can do with each other and get to know Quin Snyder and vice versa. And I think that this team can be I think this could be a more interesting basketball game tonight.
I don't disagree. Last thing here. Braves. Doing our preview series here. Different players. Nice. Austin Riley. What do you expect out of Austin Riley in 2023? What can he get better at? And do you think he is the Braves' best hitter in 2023?
Well, I think the ceiling for Austin Riley is that he is the Braves' best hitter. I think he's never going to be the best player on the team just because Ronald Acuna is still on this roster.
I'm not certain. Like, he's going to play more games. It would not surprise me if his WAR and WRC plus is better.
For Austin Riley is best player, best hitter, I should say, on the Braves. The ceiling for Ronald Acuna is best player in the world. So it's just a different conversation there. But I love Austin Riley. I've been on Austin Riley's bandwagon for a long time since he was called up to the show back in 2019.
Mm-hmm.
So I think what I want to see from him specifically is I want to stop seeing the swing and miss. He still chases a little bit more than I'd like to see. Last year we saw a slight uptick in his walk percentage, and I think I'd really like to see him up that again this year, especially if he's going to be coming into the 3 hole. I mean, you're going to have Matt Olson or likely Matt Olson batting in the 4 spot. I think he's going to come in off of Michael Harris. So Michael Harris and Ronald Acuna rather. And I could see him really upping those RBI numbers. His RBI, what did he have? Like 90 some odd RBIs, 93 RBIs. I can see him getting up into the hundreds. I want to see him in the triple digits this year. I think he's very capable of doing that, especially with Michael Harris and Ronald Acuna playing in front of him. You get one or both of those guys on base, you get a base hit, and that's scoring at least one of those guys, And I think he's very capable of being that guy for the Braves. And 40 home runs, that's another thing I'd like to see. But I think he's right in his sweet spot. If he just comes in and does the things that he did last year, it just Mr. Consistency. And I don't even need to see what we saw right before he got that massive contract extension. I want to just see just the consistent Austin Riley who's going to come in and be a pro. It's what we've come to expect from him these last couple of years. And look, and then he's going to get hot. And then if he gets hot, he's one of the best players in the sport. So, really what I want to see 40 home runs in a perfect season, 40 home runs. I want to see 100 plus RBIs, which I think is perfectly reasonable. And then just cut down on the swing and miss. Make him pitch to you.
Yeah, I think so too. Do you know who his most similar batting score is on Baseball Reference to this point?
Austin Riley, similar to him?
Mm-hmm.
Who?
Kyle Tucker in Houston. Retire, and then a similar batter through age 25, which is interesting. Guess who it is? He's a current third baseman in the NL West. Chris Bryant.
Manny Machado?
Chris
Chris
Bryant.
Bryant? Oh, I always forget he's out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not bad.
That's
he
fine.
Played 160 games last year, 159 the year before. He's
a consistent player. He's good.
Yeah.
He's a good baseball player. And I think Austin Riley has a higher ceiling than either of those guys. I mean, Chris Bryant.
I don't think he has a higher ceiling than Chris Bryant,
No,
but Chris Bryant's kind of messed up with him.
I spoke too quickly on that. But when Austin Riley is playing hot baseball, like if he's like in one of those moods, which we saw last year in July, he's pretty damn good. And this team will win a lot of baseball games with Austin Riley playing the way he does if he gets to that level. But I just want to see a little bit more, like, be Mr. Consistent and be that guy who's that steady face, steady force in the middle of the lineup for the Braves. And like, I think he's going to be a key cog in a Braves team that wins 100 games. So he's going to be a very good baseball player.
There you go.
Actually, one thing though, on defense, I want to see, he's going to be a sneaky person to watch just because of the elimination of the shift. And he's playing next to Vaughn Grisham. I think that's going to be an interesting sort of dynamic between those two. Keep an eye on those two. That's really the biggest thing that I'm going to be doing during the rest of spring training, especially the early part of the 2023 season.
Is it Grissom or Grisham?
Grisham.
Is it?
Yeah. 2 S's like that is Grisham.
But I thought, hold on, I swear when he first came, people were saying Grissom. And then there's also, Marquise Grissom. But how did he spell his? Yeah, Marquise Grissom, spelled it the same way. But do we say Marquise Grisham? Or do we say Marquise Grissom?
Hold on.
Grissom.
Oh.
Grissom.
That's kind of goes both ways. It says both ways.
That's what I'm saying. I don't know which one it is.
I don't know. I trust my...
But now I'm like thinking back because I was too young. Marquise Grissom.
Wow,
but I swear I said Marquise Grissom every time growing up.
Yeah, I kind of go both ways. Sorry, I just got distracted. It is now all of a sudden a torrential downpour.
We just sent it to you. I told you what's going on in East Tennessee. Be careful.
It is shaking light posts. Huh. Well, we're about to go to a Hawks game, so we'll see how this goes.
There you go. Be safe. You might lose power, so let's wrap up this podcast. Garrett Chapman, what can we check out from you over at 99 The Game and 247 Sports this week?
Official visits are getting back underway for Georgia Tech, so we'll see if we get a full list going there. So we'll have some stuff there. All the coverage for the Yellow Jackets' basketball season, I think, comes to a close tomorrow, their final game of the season, which I think that's about it. But baseball season is getting underway, and baseball, of course, it's a very exciting time here in Atlanta.
Danny Hall.
Yeah, so it's going to be a big time year. So excited for that. Excited for everything that's going on at the station. Hopefully we get another Hawks win.
There you go. Garrett Chapman, always a pleasure, and I will talk to you next week.
Sounds good.